The Galactic Mockery. The Vosgian battleship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a predator, its metallic hull gleaming silver against the blue sky. Inside the command deck, Commander Leora Vex stood with perfect posture, her violet eyes scanning the tactical displays as her crew prepared for landing. Earth Central Command has cleared us for touchdown at their Nevada facility, reported her second-in-command, Armies. They've arranged quite the welcome party. Leora's mouth twitched into what might have been a smile on a more expressive species. How quaint. I do hope they don't strain themselves. The Vosgians had encountered many civilizations in their expansion across the galaxy, but few had proven as puzzling as humans. A species barely out of their planetary cradle, humans had somehow managed to develop faster-than-light communication before proper energy weapons. Their technological development path was chaotic, unpredictable, and, by Vosgian standards, completely backwards. Remember, Leora addressed her crew, we are here as part of the Galactic Alliance Treaty. These exercises are diplomatic in nature. She adjusted her uniform, a sleek black ensemble that accentuated her tall, slender frame. But that doesn't mean we can't show them what real warriors look like. Laughter rippled through the command deck. The Vosgian military had never lost a conflict in recorded history. Their neural-linked battle systems, genetic enhancements, and lifetime of combat training made them the finest fighting force in known space. Commander, Tari said, his tone slightly amused, have you reviewed the human contingent we'll be working with? Leora nodded. 5th Division, North American Command. Supposedly they're elite. She scrolled through her data tablet. Their equipment is functional, at best. Did you see their combat suits? Called out another officer. They still use hydraulics instead of synthetic muscle fibers. More laughter. Leora allowed it. Morale was important, and these exercises would be tedious at best. Her crew deserved some amusement. The ship landed with barely a tremor, a testament to Vosgian engineering. As the ramp extended, Leora led her 12-member team down to meet their hosts. The Nevada air was dry and hot, a stark contrast to the controlled environment of their vessel. A line of human officers stood at attention, their dress uniforms adorned with colorful ribbons and medals. At their center stood a stern-faced woman with cropped gray hair whom Leora recognized from the briefing as General Diana Winters. Commander Vex, Winters extended her hand in the human custom, welcome to Earth. Leora accepted the handshake, noting the firmness of the human's grip. General Winters. My team and I look forward to these joint exercises. We've prepared accommodations and a briefing room. Winters gestured toward a nearby facility. If you'd like to get settled first. That won't be necessary, Leora replied. Vosgians can go 72 hours without rest. We prefer to begin immediately. Winters nodded, unsurprised. Very well. Follow me. The briefing room was spacious but primitive by Vosgian standards. Projection screens instead of holograms, wired connections rather than neural interfaces. Leora watched as her team exchanged glances, their subtle expressions communicating volumes of amusement. General Winters introduced the human officers one by one. Most were unremarkable to Leora's eyes, until she reached a man standing toward the end of the line. And this is Sergeant Jackson Reed, our unconventional tactics specialist. The man didn't stand out physically, average height, solid build, with brown hair cropped short and a face that would disappear in any crowd. But there was something in his eyes, a quiet intensity that made Leora pause. Unconventional tactics, she inquired. Reed shrugged slightly. I just try to survive, ma'am. Sergeant Reed has a habit of finding solutions where others see only problems, Winters explained. We thought he might provide an interesting perspective during these exercises. Taris leaned close to Leora. Their specialist looks like he should be driving a transport, not planning strategy. Leora silenced him with a glance, though she agreed. This unassuming human hardly seemed worth special attention. The briefing continued, outlining a series of combat simulations, strategic planning sessions, and field exercises designed to foster cooperation between Vosgian and human forces. The underlying goal, unstated but clear, was to integrate Earth more fully into the Galactic Alliance's defensive structure. "We'll begin tomorrow at 0600 with combat aptitude assessments," Winters concluded. "Any questions?" "Just one," Leora said. "These exercises are designed for joint operations, but realistically, what can your forces contribute that ours cannot already accomplish more efficiently?" The room went silent. Several human officers stiffened, but Winters merely smiled. "That's exactly what we're here to discover, Commander." As the meeting adjourned, Leora noticed Sergeant Reed watching her, his expression unreadable. When their eyes met, he didn't look away as most humans did when confronted with a Vosgian's gaze. Instead, he nodded slightly, as if acknowledging something only he could see. The following morning brought the first assessments, a series of combat simulations in a massive underground facility. The Vosgians moved through the courses with fluid precision, their neural-linked systems allowing them to communicate and coordinate without a word. "Time, 3 minutes, 14 seconds, announced the facility's AI. "New course record." Leora's team exchanged satisfied glances as they exited the simulation area, passing the human team on their way in. "Good luck," Tari said to them, not bothering to hide his condescension. The humans entered without response. From an observation deck, Leora watched as they prepared. Most checked weapons and equipment, but Reed simply stood still, eyes closed, seemingly doing nothing. "What is he doing?" she asked General Winters, who stood beside her. "Processing," Winters replied. "Reed has his own methods." The simulation began. The humans moved well enough for their level of technology, coordinated, disciplined, but painfully slow compared to the Vosgians. They were halfway through when an unexpected barrage of fire caught their lead element, forcing them into cover. "That's not part of the standard simulation," Leora noted, suddenly interested. "No," Winters confirmed. "We added some random elements. Makes things more realistic." On the screen, Reed suddenly took command, directing his team with hand signals. Instead of pushing forward through the main corridor as the Vosgians had done, he led them through ventilation ducts, maintenance tunnels, and at one point, directly through a wall that shouldn't have been breachable. "How did he know that panel was weak?" Leora asked, leaning forward. Winters shrugged. "He didn't. He guessed." The humans emerged behind the simulated enemy position, neutralizing it with minimal effort. They continued through the course, taking unorthodox routes that no tactical computer would have suggested. "Time, 4 minutes, 57 seconds, the AI announced when they finished. Slower than the Vosgians, but considerably faster than any previous human record." As the team exited, Reed approached the observation deck, looking up at Leora with that same steady gaze. "Interesting approach, Sergeant," she called down. "Though inefficient." "Efficiency isn't always the point, Commander," he replied. "Sometimes the goal is just to surprise the enemy enough to stay alive." Later, as Leora reported to her superiors via quantum transmission, she found herself dwelling on Reed's words. "The exercises are proceeding as expected," she told the Vosgian High Command. "The humans are technologically inferior in every measurable way." "And your assessment of their combat potential?" asked Admiral Krell, his holographic form flickering slightly. Leora hesitated, thinking of Reed's unconventional approach. "Limited," she said finally. "But, unpredictable." "Explain." "They don't follow optimal patterns. They improvise in ways our tactical systems don't anticipate." "Is this a concern?" "No," Leora said firmly. "Merely an observation. They pose no significant threat to Vosgian operations." After the transmission ended, Leora found herself staring at the personnel file of Sergeant Jackson Reed. His service record was unremarkable except for one detail: he had survived 3 missions where all other squad members had been lost. Each time, his after-action reports had been brief, almost cryptic. Adapted to changing circumstances, one read. Found alternate solutions, stated another. Outside the window of her temporary quarters, the desert stretched beneath a starlit sky. Somewhere out there, beyond Earth's atmosphere, the Galactic Alliance continued its expansion, with Vosians at the forefront. Earth was just another stepping stone, its people just another species to be guided, or controlled. Yet for the first time in her career, Leora felt a flicker of uncertainty. There was something about these humans, something in their chaotic, unpredictable approach, that defied Vosian analysis. And that made them, perhaps, worth watching more closely than she had initially believed. The unconventional approach. Dawn broke over the Nevada desert, painting the mountains with gold and crimson. Leora had been awake for hours, reviewing footage from the previous day's exercises. She replayed Sergeant Reed's simulation run for the 6th time, trying to identify what bothered her about his methods. Obsessing over the human's performance? Tari's asked, entering the small office she'd commandeered. Analyzing, Leora corrected, not looking up. His approach defies tactical logic. Humans often do, Tari's replied with a dismissive wave. That's why they're still confined to one solar system while we explore the galaxy. Leora frowned. Underestimating potential adversaries is the first step toward defeat. Adversaries? I thought they were allies, Tari said with a smirk. Before she could respond, an alert chimed on her communication band. Today's exercise, Urban Combat Simulation, Level 7. The simulation arena was impressive even by Vosian standards, a sprawling mock city with buildings of varying heights, underground tunnels, and civilian holograms programmed to react realistically to combat situations. For this exercise, the human and Vosian teams would compete directly against each other. Capture the command center and hold it for 10 minutes, General Winters explained at the pre-mission briefing. Non-lethal weapons only. First team to accomplish the objective wins. What's the command center defended by? Reed asked. Automated defense systems and randomly spawning enemy combatants, Winters replied. The system adapts to each team's tactics in real time. Leora studied the map, already formulating the optimal approach. My team will take point. Your soldiers can provide rear security. General Winters exchanged a glance with Reed before responding. Actually, Commander, we'll be operating independently. May the best team win. Leora's eyebrows rose slightly. As you wish. She turned to her team. Standard Void Protocol. Let's show them how this is done. The exercise began with teams starting at opposite ends of the simulation zone. Leora led her squad swiftly through the urban landscape, their movements synchronized through neural links. They neutralized defensive positions with practiced efficiency, barely slowing their advance. Enemy forces at 70% capacity and falling, reported her tactical officer. We're making excellent progress. Too excellent, Leora muttered, slowing her pace. Where is the human team? A scan of the tactical display showed no sign of Reed's squad. They should have encountered resistance by now, but the simulation was oddly quiet along their expected approach vector. Perhaps they've already been eliminated, suggested Tari's. No, Leora said sharply. Something's wrong. She tapped her neural interface, expanding her tactical awareness. Adjust formation. Defensive posture alpha. Her team shifted seamlessly, creating a perimeter as they continued toward the command center. The building came into view, a fortified structure in the center of the simulation zone, surrounded by open ground and multiple defensive emplacements. Standard approach is compromised, Leora said after analyzing the defenses. We'll use the tunnels beneath the eastern quadrant. Her team moved according to plan, entering the underground network and navigating toward the command center's foundation. Their progress was smooth until they reached a junction 300 meters from their target. Commander, her point scout called, the tunnel ahead has been collapsed. Impossible, Leora frowned. The simulation parameters don't include structural damage to access routes. She approached to inspect the blockage herself. It wasn't a system-generated obstacle, someone had physically rerouted power conduits to overload, causing a controlled cave-in. The humans, she realized. They've been modifying the environment. A warning flashed across her neural display, command center breach detected. How? She demanded, spinning toward the tactical display. Show me access point. The display revealed nothing, no entry through any standard access point. Instead, it showed heat signatures moving within the command center's upper level. They dropped in from above, her tactical officer said in disbelief. Through the ventilation system. That's impossible, Tari's objected. Those shafts are too narrow for combat armor. They removed their armor, Leora said quietly, the realization dawning. They sacrificed protection for mobility. On the display, Reed's team had secured the command center core and established defensive positions at all entrances. The countdown timer had started, 10 minutes to hold the position. Redirect to surface approach, Leora ordered. Full tactical press. We still have time to dislodge them. Her team emerged from the tunnels and sprinted toward the command center, employing cover tactics against the automated defenses. They reached the main entrance with 7 minutes remaining on the clock. Breach pattern Omega, Leora commanded, and her team moved into position. The door exploded inward from their shaped charge, and Voshan warriors poured through the opening, stun weapons ready. They cleared the first level efficiently, neutralizing 2 human defenders in the process. 6 minutes remained. The stairwells had been barricaded with furniture and debris. Leora's team cleared these obstacles quickly, but precious seconds ticked away. When they reached the second level, they found it abandoned. 5 minutes. Where are they? Tari's demanded. The core is on this level. Leora scanned the area, noticing a subtle disturbance in the dust on the floor. They've centralized their defense. Core room only. The core room had a single entrance, a reinforced door designed to withstand substantial force. As Leora's team approached, the door suddenly opened. Reed stood in the doorway, unarmed, with a curious expression on his face. Commander, he nodded casually. We were wondering when you'd join us. Leora raised her stun weapon. Surrender the command center. Can't do that, Reed replied. But I'd be happy to give you a tour. Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. The simulation abruptly ended, lights shifting from combat red to normal illumination. What happened? Leora demanded. Simulation conclusion, announced the AI. Command center successfully defended for 10 minutes. Human team victory. Impossible, Tari's protested. The timer was accelerated, Reed finished for him. We hacked the system clock for the command center. Major neural interfaces think less time had passed than actually did. Leora stared at him, processing this information. That's cheating. Reed shrugged. That's war. The enemy doesn't always play by the rules. Later, in the debriefing room, General Winters reviewed the exercise with both teams. The humans looked exhausted but satisfied. The Vosians remained stoic, though Leora could sense their frustration. Unconventional tactics won the day, Winters concluded. But both teams demonstrated exceptional skill. After the briefing, Leora found Reed alone in the facility's observation deck, watching the sunset through the reinforced windows. Your methods are unorthodox, she said, standing beside him. Coming from you, I'll take that as a compliment. It wasn't meant as one, Leora replied. In real combat, your approach would get your people killed. Reed turned to face her, that same quiet intensity in his eyes. In real combat, I've kept my people alive when conventional tactics would have failed. That's the difference between us, Commander. You train to win. We train to survive. They're the same thing, Leora countered. Not always. Reed gestured toward the desert beyond the glass. Out there, in the real world, victory sometimes means just making it through another day. Finding a way forward when all logical paths are blocked. For a moment, Leora was silent, considering his words. The Galactic Alliance has existed for millennia, she said finally. We've developed combat doctrine based on countless engagements across hundreds of worlds. And yet, Reed smiled slightly, a bunch of primitives with hydraulic combat suits just outmaneuvered your elite team. Instead of taking offense, Leora found herself curious. Why did you remove your armor? You left yourselves vulnerable. Sometimes you have to be vulnerable to be effective, Reed replied. Armor can protect you, but it can also limit you. Define you. Make you think there's only one way to fight. That night, Leora reported the day's events to High Command, her assessment more measured than before. The humans employ tactics that our systems are not programmed to anticipate, she explained. They sacrifice efficiency for unpredictability. And is this effective? Admiral Krell asked, his holographic image flickering. Leora hesitated. Yes, she admitted. In contained scenarios, against opponents who expect conventional approaches. Do they pose a threat? The question lingered in the air. Leora thought of Reed's calm confidence, his willingness to discard doctrine in favor of intuition. Not immediately, she said carefully. But their potential should not be dismissed. There is an adaptability to them that we may have underestimated. The next morning brought a new exercise, wilderness survival with minimal equipment. As the teams gathered at the starting point, Reed approached Leora. Heard you talking to your superiors last night, he said quietly. Leora stiffened. Our communications are encrypted. Reed smiled. Not as well as you think. Nothing is, really. Are you threatening me, Sergeant? Warning you, he corrected. The Galactic Alliance isn't the first advanced civilization to look at humanity and see only primitive technology. We've survived this long because we're really good at one thing. And what's that? Reed's smile faded, replaced by that intense look that had first caught Leora's attention. Finding the weaknesses that others don't know they have. As he walked away to join his team, Leora felt a strange sensation she rarely experienced, uncertainty. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she wondered if the Voshan High Command's assessment of humans might be fundamentally flawed. Perhaps these creatures weren't merely a curiosity or a minor addition to the Alliance. Perhaps they were something else entirely, an unpredictable variable in an equation the Voshans had thought long solved. And as she watched Reed prepare his team for the day's challenge, Leora wondered what other surprises these humans might have in store, and whether the galaxy was ready for them.